Well, hello, I'm Mike Festiva. Welcome back to part 4 of the mini cabin build series. If you haven't seen the previous videos, this is a little recap, probably about 30-40 seconds. Started off with a free trailer, started working on building the floor, added a bunch of walls to it, roof, typical, kind of up to the point now where we're actually going to be installing some more siding, and in this episode we'll be actually wiring the cabin. If you haven't seen those previous ones, you're interested in this kind of project, go back through. I think you'll get a lot of good information out of it. A lot of people call these things tiny homes, tiny houses. I prefer mini cabin, so enjoy part number 4. So, a while back I milled some more cedar on my homemade bandsaw mill, so we're going to start on some siding here. I took about a month off on the mini cabin due to just being burned out on the project and other projects needing my time, but now I'm feeling motivated again to get cracking on this thing and hopefully wrap it up in the next month and a half, so you'll probably see quite a few more of these mini cabin videos coming out, and hope to get it packed up and taken over to my friend's place a few hundred miles away. And it'll be nestled up in the mountains, so it should be a good summer retreat little cabin to go to, and wintertime snowboarding cabin. So looking forward to finishing this thing up. So it sure feels good to get more cedar up on this cabin here. This mini chop saw I've been using, this cordless thing, has been definitely a time saver. My only regret with it was I didn't buy it sooner. It's been really good. One of the downsides of this whole project here, I'm trying to fire up the generator, is kind of running out of gas, is that I have to fire up the generator, run my air compressor, and unfortunately I bought a power station that should around that compressor and things, and I got a complete lemon off of Amazon. Blue Eddy, I will never buy from them again, and unfortunately in the fine print you can't even return it. I'll get a little bit more on that in the future part of this video here. Now get to jump back inside, starting to get some measurements here for a little mini loft platform. So I specifically cut this beam on my bandsaw mill, cut off some of the high knots were sticking way far out, and I'm gonna go over it now with the angle grinder, kind of buff out the edges, but I really like the rustic character to it. I mean, I could have cut a perfect beam that was nice like this, but I really wanted that cool rustic, you know, aged look to it. So I'm gonna buff it out now with the angle grinder and mount it up for the loft beam. So I found when working with this rough cut lumber, I prefer an angle grinder with a sanding flat disc. It's really nice for rounding off corners and kind of keeps a rustic random look to it, unlike a router that would make a perfect round edge. It's just kind of something I prefer when working with rough cut lumber and smoothing it out. A little squirrely just laying on a beam, but oh yeah, that's plenty of room to sleep up here. So I installed this beam yesterday right before I took off to go camping with my son. Had a night to think about it, and once I fill in some cedar on the ceiling, I just feel like it might be a little claustrophobic up there. Right now I can walk under the beam, my height, but I'm gonna lower it down a few inches, even have to duck a little bit, because I'm gonna put a little bench back here, kind of a seating area that's going to turn into a bed. My rest of my family's out camping with me. So I'm going to actually lower this beam down a little bit before I get moving any further.
diamonds, jack of diamonds. Well, I've known you from old. You have robbed my poor pockets from their silver and gold.
So now that I got those beams mounted, it's time to take the cedar that I milled on my bandsaw mill and cut it up into some loft boards. I actually ran them through a planer on one side only to give it a nice smooth surface. That's going to be the upper part of the loft floor. Bottom side I'm going to leave rough cut just to kind of have a nice cabin feel. So here I'm just running a little orbital sander over the rough cut side and the edges to kind of smooth it out a little bit. Take any of the high splinters off of the rough cut side. Gives it just a nicer, softer kind of a touch. Alright, it's time to start wiring this thing for 12 volt power. Keep in mind I purchased most of the stuff like the switches, the electrical boxes, lights, and USB chargers a few months back. Kind of sketched out a little simple diagram how I kind of wanted things to be laid out, but I hadn't really thought about it for the last 2 months. And this evening it took me a little while to track down all the components, and it also took me a little while to kind of wrap my head around it because it wasn't really fresh in my mind anymore. Now, these lights are hung here temporarily. I left extra wiring because I'm not sure exactly where I'm going to place them or what kind of boxes I'm going to set. So these are just so I can work in here now. I got them wired and can work in the evening. There we go. These I'm going to probably put a dimmer on them too so you can kind of dim them down. But that's going to be helpful. I'm going to wire a few more in here temporary tonight just so I can keep going. I think tomorrow it's going to downpour. It's supposed to have crazy wet. It's been a wet spring, so I get some more lighting wired up while it's pouring down rain tonight and tomorrow. Be nice, I can work on it day and night once I get lighting in here now. Pretty awesome. So here I'm running the main wiring that's going to bring the power from the power box over to the main light switches and USB charger. And now I'm running the wires up for the kitchen lights and the outdoor porch light. So with this main line, I'm actually only running 14 gauge copper wire for the switch box. Mainly because I'll never exceed about 5 amps on this run. I've kind of figured out the full max load. I'll be running a fuse on it anyhow. If I was going to run really much heavier loads on this whole thing, I would have ran 10 gauge on this main line. So this switch will be the porch light. This switch will be the kitchen light. Other switch here will be a room light. And this is going to be a USB charger right here. So here I'm just drilling out the rivets on a dollar light switch so I can take the metal plate and mount it in the box. Just so happens it fits the actual USB charger holes perfect to mount it. There we go. This is a USB on-off switch on here. Wanted to get one with the on-off switch just so you don't see this blue light lit up all the time in the cabin, and just less power draw on the system if you don't need it. But that was worked out good. I just basically drilled out the rivets on a dollar light switch, used that mounting plate to mount all this, and the holes in this USB actually fit up with the exact light switch holes, so that was a win. So I almost spaced it and forgot to add this box down here. I know I thought about it a few months ago, but some time went by, and like I said, I almost spaced it. Adding another little 12-volt socket down here to power my mini fridge below the kitchen counter. For all the 12-volt wiring I've done in little mini cabins, I found that these work fantastic for little junctions inside these boxes. These fit from 12 to 24 gauge, and the lever nuts works really well. So just go through on my negative side, put a black Sharpie mark on there, represent negative, and of course positive on this side, just keep it regular. All my red wires come into here, positive. All my negative wires, which has got the black writing on, come into here. You can tuck them away inside the box and good to go. Alright, now I got everything wired. I hooked the power up to this whole box area and got the USB charger working. Charge up my camera / work light. So nice. Everything I get wired in here is just going to make it better. So I got a bunch of these cut. These are just temporary little light holders. They're going to come off when I put the cedar ceiling in. This is just some cedar scraps, kind of like I did over here, just to kind of get the area lit up and get the lights in the proximity where I want them. So we're going to do some room lights up here. We're going to put those temporary light holders up here, and over the kitchen there's going to be 3 lights, separate sections, so you can turn them off. A few of them I might dim, so you can kind of dim it down, especially the ones under the bunk where a seating area is going to be. I'd like to dim that, and the upstairs bunk area. So going to get mounting these and wiring up the rest of the room. From here on, it's going to make it a lot nicer to work in here, as you can hear. It's raining out there, and it's been wet, but wet. So it's pouring down rain out here, and it's nice to be in here and dry. Not warm yet, but that's coming soon once I put the diesel heater in here. All right, let's get those lights mounted. All right, let there be light. There we go. Man, that's gonna make a big difference working in here. Now we just gotta do the 3 over the kitchen. And keep in mind, I left a little extra wire up there so I can adjust these if I want to move them around a little bit more before I do the ceiling, just to kind of figure out optimal lighting in here. Basically, I want to put a lot of light in here. We can always dim it down if we need to, but going to be probably camping out in here on rainy days and winter time, so having a nice illuminated little hangout spot would be nice. All right, let's get on to the kitchen lights. So these little puck lights are probably the best deal I found on Amazon. I'll put links below to all this kind of stuff that's helpful for wiring. They're really simple. They're 5 watts a piece. They put out fantastic light. They're dimmable. I'll show you the dimmers I've been running on here in a little bit. Yeah, they're dimmable and they're super affordable. I'll put links below to them. You just drill a little hole in your ceiling, push them in, and I'll even put a little links to those little solderable with the heat gun wiring sleeves. They work pretty well for the butt connectors. Anyhow, only thing I'm not going to put a link to is that Blue Yeti power box. What a dud. I paid out of pocket for it. I want to get a good one. Something I felt like, well, maybe I'll put a link to if it turns out to be a good machine. I did checked out reviews. People running table saws on them, the exact same air compressor I have. So I thought all this remote stuff I'm doing, it would be fantastic to be able to run it off of that 120 volt side. It goes up to like 1800 watts. Saw people run the exact same compressor as me. I plug it in, gets like 1500 watts and just shuts down. It says 0%. You have to plug it in, it takes hours to charge. Even if you did that 100%, it takes it right down. It's garbage. And a bummer thing was I ordered from Amazon Prime, thought I could return it. Company won't take it back. So unfortunately I'm stuck with it. It'll handle all this DC stuff, but it is a dud when it comes to 120 volts. And that's one of the big reasons I bought it for, was to power my tools for this project. So Blue Eddy, I will never buy from that product company again. It was a big letdown. It's my own feeling, paid out of pocket for, I got burned, so yeah. Let's get wired these lights now. All right, kitchen lights. Yeah, that's gonna be nice. Put them close to the wall because I don't like when you're cooking and the light's behind you and you're casting shadow everywhere you're working. So I want it nice and bright in here because I do plan to be cooking some pretty good meals in this thing. I mean, it's gonna be a small kitchen, should be pretty nice, better than the tailgate of the mini truck, which I bust out some pretty good meals with that. But yeah, good lighting in here. Now I just gotta jump up to the loft, put a USB port up there and a light switch and 2 lights, maybe 3, dimmable. So that's the last bit, and I should be almost done with the wiring. All right, up in the loft, I got the light switch all wired up, got some lighting, a little reading light you can turn on and off, and not sure if I'm gonna do an extra light up here or not. I'll have to kind of figure that one out. Just definitely don't want to be laying down here reading and never having lights kind of shine in your eyes. I'd rather have it darker up here than brighter. So I might just be this one and this one and call it good. Now I just gotta wire up a USB charger and wire up a porch light. We're good on the wiring. All right, so I got a few more dimmers to install, still a porch light, but I'm gonna call it good for the day. Got basically almost all the wiring done in one rainy day, so happy about that. Got a USB outlet up here and dimmable lights for the loft. Down here will have a dimmer. Right now I don't. Gonna be another USB port going in down here. And the main room lights right there. And the kitchen lights overhead. Wattage draw right now. So that's 45 watts with 9 LED lights going full bore. So you can kind of turn them down and drop the wattage draw by with the dimmers. So I think that's gonna be pretty good. Really nice and bright in here with this white, kind of a light maple floor. It'll be lighter cedar on the ceiling, lighter panels on the wall. So insulation, I'm looking forward to getting that up so I can start working on the interior paneling. Another thing, got a door handle put on here so I can lock the place with all my tools in here.